The angry soccer guy is back. And it's funny, man. I had a guy, we were at a tournament, and one of my other coaches came up to me. He's like, hey, I ran into somebody. He's like, hey, you work with the angry soccer guy? He's like, yeah. And he's like, man, I love that guy, but he's a little angry sometimes. And it's just like, it's funny, man. Like, I think a lot of people think that I'm angry. I'm just trying to help people make better decisions. I come across probably a little aggressive just because it's like maybe I'm angry, but it's just like, it's frustrating, man, because it's like, you guys are all making the same mistakes that I made. I don't want you to. But that's because my parents didn't know. But that's anyway. So today we're going to be talking about overtraining. Or in this video, we're going to be talking about overtraining, or this audio. And this is something that I think is a really bigger issue than it's probably talked about. And it doesn't have to be overtraining. It could be overplaying, whatever vocabulary word you want to use to describe it. But it's the kids doing too much in too little time. So this is the framework that we want to look at to help players be in a better position in the long run. Because if you don't take care of their body now, you might be able to get away with it for a little while, but eventually what's going to start happening is their body's going to start breaking down. And I know this from personal experience because I've had almost every injury in the book. Thank God I haven't had any surgery yet, but I've had broken bones, muscle breakdown, overuse injuries. You pick your poison. I've had the whole thing the entire time. In fact, I thought my career was over at 19 years old because I had such a bad injury that nobody knew how to fix. Separate point, but I've gone through the whole thing. So I'm trying to help you guys understand how to, not have these issues, and we're going to look at this and address it now, okay? So it's really focused on overtraining or overplaying. So, for example, if your child is doing 2 sessions a day, okay. You need to be very careful, though, if you're doing 2, and I've even seen parents do 3 a day, and I'm like, too much, because here's the thing. You take a player, like take yourself. Let's say you go to the gym, right? You go to the gym, you work out for an hour, hour and a half, whatever, and then you go to the gym again, and you do the same type of training. 3 hours later, you haven't given your body ample time to recover to be able to go do the same type of exercise. So I know that's like a different example, but it's the same point here. Like, I go to the gym, okay? So I've been in the gym since January. I'm in much better shape, right? If I go and do chest and arms today, for example, then I can't go back the same day and do it again. It just wouldn't make sense. Like especially if I push hard. So if I go and push hard, for whatever hard would be for me, I'm smaller, right? But the point is, if I go and push hard and then I come back and do it again the same day, that's going to cause a problem. That's why you take rest and you do something else the next day and then you do something else the next day and you come back to it, right? It's usually a 2-day thing, give or take. I don't know, just my experience, okay? So same idea here. You need to give your player ample rest time to recover. Rest, nutrition, hydration, recover. Okay, so that's what we're going to look at now. Okay, so this is a huge issue and what I would call the silent killer. And the reason why I call it a silent killer is because you can keep doing it and then you don't realize how poor it is or bad it is for the player. Because they're going through this and they're going to keep doing it. So for example, they're going to train twice a day. They're going to train, for example, let's say they train at 3 o'clock and then they train again at 6, right? There's barely any rest period in that. So that's like 3 to 4 and then they're going to train again 6 to 7:30, right? Let's say they're both intense. Okay, especially in pay-to-play America, kids are spending hours training, but then get almost zero time to rest and recover. That's a problem. The kids need time to rest and recover. That's what we're going to be addressing now and how we can look at this. Okay, so this is my personal experience, my personal opinion. Players need at a minimum 4 hours of rest between 2 highly active / intense sessions. Okay. They need time to rest and recover. And we're going to look at more of this in a second. But, and to be completely honest with you, I don't even think 4 hours is enough. So let's say the player trains for an hour and a half, right? And then they train again for an hour and a half the same day. And there's no break or very little break. Their bodies are going to start breaking down. They need ample time to rest, eat, hydrate, and recover. So and these are 4 things. They need to rest. So this might mean they need to sleep. Okay, they need to eat well. This means do not go get fast food. So if you're going to be doing 2 sessions a day, it's completely pointless to be eating poor nutrition. So fast food, sugary products, anything like that, because you're just all the work that you're doing, you're neglecting by putting in poor nutrition. Like, it's going to sound so cliche. Oh, you are what you eat. You really are what you eat. And I found that out the hard way now because I've been doing this for so long, where I was gaining weight and I'm like, dude, what the hell? So I've really reshifted what I eat and what I do now to not gain that weight and be in a better physical condition. I'm not where I want to be yet, but I'm getting closer. But the key thing is what you eat is so important, right? If you're just eating, sugary cereal, then you go to McDonald's for lunch, then you have Chick-fil-A for dinner. Well, you're hurting the athlete at that point, and this is going to continue to break them down. Okay, so just make sure you get this. And the key thing here is, my opinion, right? Minimum 4 hours. I don't even think 4 hours is enough personally, but I think it's at least a starting point to have, hey, at least a 4-hour break between the first activity and then the second activity. Okay, so that way you can have some time to rest, recover, and whatnot. Now, let's keep it moving. So rest, eat, sleep. So eat includes the hydration piece, so I just didn't make a separate one, but hopefully you get the point. They need to rest, right? So they need to get out of the sun. They need to get into an air-conditioned place. They need to just relax, okay? They need to eat and hydrate. So they need, like I just mentioned, they need to eat well, and they need to drink water. And I think most of the time, people undervalue the importance of water. It doesn't have flavor. Oh, I want to have a sports drink. Well, a lot of times you look at the sports drinks and they're covered in sugar or other poor product or poor ingredients, right? Like Yellow 5 or something like that. And I'm not a nutritionist in any way, shape, or form. I'm just explaining to you. I think water is undervalued, especially in athletics. So just keep that in mind. And if you want to add flavor, add a lemon, right? Add a lime. Do something to add a little bit of flavor. Salt, something. But water is so important, okay? So they need to, after doing the first activity, they need to eat healthy and nutritious meals. So I'll give you a little bit of a framework with that in a second, but let me finish it. They need to get out of the sun, right? And the number of times I've gone to a tournament or whatever, and then the kids play the first game, and then they're sitting in the sun, or like they're under a tent in 90-degree heat. Dude, get your child out of the sun into a air-conditioned location, hotel, whatever it is, so they're out and they're relaxing. Sitting under a tent in 90-plus degree weather is not relaxing. That's very uncomfortable. Okay? They may need to sleep to recover. Especially kids that have played, you'll see they get in the car, they knock out, or they go back to the hotel, they don't even shower, they just go to sleep. Okay, that's very important. They need to hydrate with water, like I just mentioned. The other thing, too, that I've seen is kids, like, they'll wear their socks and their shoes. Bro, get the feet out. They need to have their feet out of shoes and socks. They need to be out of that, and they let their feet recover. Okay, and then when it comes to healthy, nutritious meals, there's a friend of mine. She's worked with some of the best or like top athletes in the world. So Major League Baseball, Olympic swimmers, Division I athletes. You pick your point here. And she told me that the framework that they use for this is very simple for high level athletes. For basically every single meal, 2 servings carb. So like rice, pasta, okay, something like that, carb. 1 serving vegetable, 1 serving protein. Every single meal. Boom. Breakfast, lunch, dinner. Right, and that's what she would do with her top-level athletes. And I'm like, man, it's not that hard because they need the carbs to create energy, they need the protein to recover the muscle, and they need the nutrients from the vegetables. Okay, but it's all fresh stuff. We're not talking about processed meals or fast food or things with terrible ingredients. It's all healthy stuff to help them recover and maximize their performance. And I really think like a lot of parents misvalue or undervalue the importance of the nutrition aspect. And I really want to frame it this way. There's literally no reason for your child to be doing 2 things a day, almost let alone 1, if you're going to continue to choose to let them eat poorly. Because that will just continue to break down their body. And some athletes, players might be able to get away with it longer than others, but at some point it will come back to haunt you. And I know that from personal experience because I'll give you a personal example. As I've mentioned before in other videos, my family they weren't athletes. My mom and dad were not athletes at all. And they never played anything outside of high school, or I should say they never played high school or higher. So they maybe played some like youth sports in elementary school, maybe middle school or whatever. But they didn't know what nutritionist value looked like. So like a great example would be I had a Slurpee from 7-Eleven almost every single day as a kid. Especially Coca-Cola. I didn't know. My parents didn't know. Maybe they knew it wasn't good for you, but they probably didn't know how bad it was for you. So like every single day, and then I've talked about this before, the compounding effect. When you keep doing something over and over again, so you do it in a negative way, it's going to hurt you in the long run. Boom, my body broke down so many times, right? Versus, you do it the opposite effect. You compound a good way, it'll add value to you and hopefully get you to some point. But if you're going to be doing this type of stuff, like you go to tournaments, like everybody wants to win, they go to a tournament. well, then you have to do the right things off the field to even have a chance to be successful on the field, my personal opinion. Okay, so that's just so important here to look at this framework. These 4 things, because they need to eat, they need to get out of the sun, they need to sleep, or possibly, well, that's what it says, may need to sleep, and they need to hydrate. So 3 out of the 4 they need to do. One of them you may need to do. Okay, so just keep that in mind. Right, but I know all this because my body broke down so many times, my nutrition was terrible, my hydration was terrible, I didn't know, and it was just a mess. So otherwise you are setting your child up for failure in the long run with overuse injuries, like me, or complications. So I'll give you a quick story. When I was, I think 18 or 19 years old, I might have just turned 19, I suffered from really bad patella tendonitis. And I went to 8 different doctors. None of them could, like, what's the word? Not address, but they couldn't determine what the issue was. They kept just telling me, oh, you'll be okay. And I'm like, I wasn't okay. Like, I couldn't even sleep on my stomach because of the pain in my left patella tendon. It was so bad. I had to take pills just to do anything. It was awful. And then I finally saw a 9th doctor, and he's like, hey, you might want to go check out physical therapy. So, and that was a consultation for surgery, because they told me, hey, there's a 75% chance, or like 70% chance that this will solve your problem, 30% chance they won't. I'm like, well, I don't want to do that. He's like, well, you can talk to him about physical therapy. So I go and talk to them, and they're like, hey, this is an overuse injury. It could be many factors: poor nutrition, too much training, too much whatever. And it was definitely a combination of that. But I also they did a little bit of testing on me, and they found out that the main cause was because of my lack of flexibility. So my hip muscles are out of alignment, which means they pull the quad muscle wrong, which means it pulls the kneecap wrong, which means it puts pressure on the patella tendon. So that was like 50% of the cause. Had I eaten better and taken care of my body better, rest, nutrition, recovery, water, I could have probably delayed the problem or at least reduced it significantly, but didn't know. So I had a body alignment issue, plus a nutrition issue and a recovery issue. So you add up all that over time. I got to 19 years old, bam, I got hit like a rock. I actually thought I was going to have to retire because it was that bad. So it took me a while to get back into it. But anyways, the point is, just again, you are setting your child up for failure in the long run with overuse injuries or complications if you're not taking care of the body. Like, just from personal experience, imagine drinking a Slurpee a day, every single day, sometimes 2 a day, bro. Like, it was nuts. But if you're not taking care of the body, especially when you're doing 2-a-day trainings, 3-a-day trainings, which is too much already. I've already mentioned in other videos that training, in my opinion, shouldn't be more than 2 hours. I think you can do everything you need in an hour and a half if you do it correctly. But it's just trying to knock those pieces together and put it on the right path. So I hope you found value from this. If you do, please share this with somebody. And I appreciate you guys. Let's keep working, and more content coming for you soon, man. Thanks so much.